Welcome to the School of Moxie podcast. I'm your host, Mary Williams. This season, we're talking about one thing. My business pays for my life. We're not talking about side hustles or someday dreams. We're talking about businesses that actually pay for your life. So your rent and your mortgage, your health insurance premium, the whole kit and caboodle. The thing you are not going to get today in this episode, you are not going to hear my guest read their resume at you for 15 minutes. We're skipping the highlight reel and going straight to the good stuff. We're talking about timelines and trade-offs and the money conversations that not enough people are talking about out loud, but we're about to do it here on this show. If you want to know all the details about who this person is and what they do, that's what the show notes are for. Go check them out. Follow their links. Please support their work because you don't really get to know somebody from just one episode. You get to know them by showing up for their work day after day. That's what they've done for their own communities, and it's what I'm asking you to do for them. All right, let's get into it. Hi, Cris. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. We met ages ago. Shout out to our wonderful friend, Rachel Cook.
Yes.
You were in Rachel's community and I was helping out in Rachel's community, and we met many moons ago. And I just love that we're still in contact. And
that too.
Yeah. And that you wanted to do this season on this show because the whole premise is my business pays for my life. And you really do. You're a financial investor and
financial advisor.
A financial advisor tells you that I don't work in finance. And I'm going to remind everybody to go to the show notes and go click on your links and check you out if they want to learn more about you or connect with you, because we are going to talk about your comfort show and comfort movies. We've got a few actually for you in this episode, and how your business pays for your life instead of regurgitating your resume. Do you want to tell us, we were kind of talking about like, what are we going to focus on? But I think we found the focus. Yeah. Do you want to tell us about the titles, and then we'll get into like why we're going to talk about those today?
Yeah. So my top comfort shows, my top comfort movie is 10 Things I Hate About You. And then my top two comfort shows are Alias and Wednesday.
These are such good shows. I remember when Alias was, because I am also of a certain age, and it was live every week on, I forgot what day of the week now.
I don't remember. And it came on like after Felicity when it first started.
God,
and like
of Felicity. Yeah, we could talk about that too.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why you love these comfort shows. I'm going to puppy pile on top of that. And so what keeps bringing you back to these titles? Like, why these three?
I feel like the first two, 10 Things I Hate About You and Alias, like you said, like they were live for me. Like I was a young adult figuring my way in the world, trying to figure out who I was. And there weren't a lot of women protagonists in television in a way that like Sydney Bristow was in television, or in a way that this whole world of like, Julia Stiles, the way she shows up as this character, there wasn't a lot of that in TV. Like girl power has come a long way in media and television and then since the late 90s. And so I think I was really drawn to them then because I was figuring out who I was. And I think I am still drawn to them today because they reinforce who I've become.
I would say that Wednesday can run because Alias walked before her.
Yeah. And I really think even Wednesday fits because it's still that like weird girl who doesn't quite fit in, yet holds a lot of power, yet doesn't quite know how to use it, doesn't know what to do with it, makes a lot of mistakes with it, and sort of is sorting her way as we watch her. Sorting her way through figuring out who she is, but she doesn't fit into that mold. And that is always something that resonated with me.
Yeah. There's a lot of values alignment, all those things. Like I was just thinking right now while you were talking, you and I are both queer business owners. We both support queer business owners. And the thing that I love about watching more recent modern show like Wednesday is how normalized inclusivity is in the world for like kids who were the ages we were when we were watching our older shows. But there were still like undercurrents of inclusivity in shows like Alias or movies like 10 Things I Hate About You. It just had to be expressed so differently back then. And just watching the evolution of that, I think is fascinating. And I wonder if you notice the same thing happening like in the business world.
Yeah. I mean, I am somebody who works in a very typical industry. Like I work in the financial services industry that is
Yeah.
full of white dude bros. And I am a Gen X queer woman
Yeah.
who still holds, right? I am white. I am, all of these other things that still hold some acceptability that let me move into the space. But because I sort of have some of that, I can still go in a really different direction with it and be loud about the fact that my target client market is LGBTQ people, is women breadwinners, is, women decision makers, are Gen X people who get like smushed out between boomers and millennials.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's where that resonance comes of like, I resemble a little bit of this of like not quite doing things the same. Like I'm doing something really traditional, but I'm not doing it in a way that everybody expects to have it happen.
Which is wonderful because we need more people like you. Do you feel like there's anything else about these shows and like the themes that we've been talking about that reveals anything more about like your values and your brand, your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of is this like sort of prickly but friendly once you get to know them, like not quite fitting in, feeling like they're, maybe you're taken aback by the way they look or the decisions they make or the way they're moving. But once you sort of step back and look at what they're doing, you kind of like come to love them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I see myself so much in these characters.
I agree too. Like quirky is no longer a black mark. It's now in Wednesday's world, it's a fashion choice.
And like, I think as someone who is as the age of all three of these characters, because they're all around the same age, even through just different, eras, I always felt like I didn't always quite fit in. Like I didn't always know where I belonged. I didn't uphold a traditional, I look the case now, but as I was figuring out who I was, it was the 90s. And I was like, how do I look queer, but maintain like, because I wanted to be seen by my community. So I wanted to look queer. And of course, in the 90s, that was a really different look. Grunge was in full effect. And that didn't suit my sort of feminine, femme presenting way of being. So like,
Same.
How do I present myself, but how do I be seen by my community? And it sort of was like, how do I find this identity? How do I find a place where I fit in? How do I find this chosen family? How do I find these people that I can trust? And I feel like that thread pulls through all three of those shows.
That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah, I too remember the grunge era. And I was like, that doesn't feel like me. And I had like, for the years and years, I was like, maybe I'm not queer. And I was like, I'm not straight. I was like, what am I was like, I couldn't figure it out because so much like outward expression is also part of, your identity. And, now I'm just Costco couture queen. I just, everyone who's on this season, including you, answer the casting call, and your business definitely pays for your life. And it is impressive in your instance, truly impressive. I'm just wondering, at what point did you realize that your business really was paying for your life?
I think it was probably about a year in. Now, I mean, to give people who are listening some background, like I've been in this industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I left a big team. I left a big national company to go start my own firm. It probably took me a good year of being in my firm to realize that like, okay, I had to figure out how to pay myself because the business was making money, but it wasn't making its way into my household. So like I had to figure that out. And that was head trash. It was not that the business didn't have money. It was that I had to figure it out. But then it probably was really genuinely a good solid year until I was in this transition phase where I'm like, okay, we're going to be okay. Like we're making enough money to pay the bills.
Yeah. You were pretty smart about it. And also, compared to a lot of other people I talk about when we talk about timing, I mean, you did that pretty quick, but I think it's also a testament to the fact that you had a genuine career with a capital C before then. And I think like that makes a really big difference because in this funny, wacky world of online entrepreneurship, there's a lot of people who just sort of skip over the W-2 job, and they've not done the whole, like, I got a paycheck and I figured out finances and I figured out paychecks and insurance and all of the things. So I really wondered, like, what changed about you when your business became responsible for supporting your life? Did you notice any change?
I feel like it was like a big benchmark of like, this is going to work, of like the proof of concept, right? Of like, this, we've done it. I've done it. And then I think very quickly, not only does my business pay for my life, it has to pay for the life of the people that help me do the work I do. So there's that added responsibility, right? As the business pays my life, I can't run my business by myself. And the way I want to show up as a business owner and as a leader is that I want my people who work for me to be paid fairly and generously. And so I have to pay for their lives. I mean, I don't, like, it's a balance, but I have to be sure that we can pay for my obligation to them too. So that came like really quickly in year 2.
Yeah, I remember, I think that was about the time that I met you, and you were in hiring and making very smart decisions. You were doing the, hiring slow, which I was like, it's a really big decision. And you handled it so beautifully, because you were like, I'm not going to bring people on and mess with their lives if I can't make sure that I'm upholding my end of this for them, because they're going to work for me. They're going to go to bat for me. And it's so good. We could probably do a whole episode just on that, but I'm not going to get stuck in there, because my brain is like, people hiring. No, stop me.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I mean, so you've hired people, you can't do it alone. That theme of not doing it alone has been huge this season. I feel like when you get to a certain level where your business is paying for your life, you cannot do it alone. And I'm wondering for you though, despite all of that, do you feel like you work more than some of your peers? Like, why or why not?
I actually think I don't. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can say I probably work less than some of my peers.
Good for you.
Although if I look at who my peers are, again, in the industry, by the time we've been in the business, as long as we've been in other track of lifestyle practice, that I don't feel like I resonate with, but I think at this point, given the underlying work that I have done in my business with people like you, with the support of like Rachel, with some of these other people that I work with, coaches I've worked with, to build really reliable structure and systems under my business, I'm probably at this point working less than I've ever worked. And in that, I'm not grinding. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be thoughtful in growth. I want to be thoughtful in how I live my life. I want to be thoughtful about how my employees work and what kind of schedule they keep, and, just how we do that. So I think at this point I am, and this is I am making more money than I've ever made, and I am working less than I've ever made, worked less than I ever have.
That's amazing. I'm wondering though, like, do you feel like you can get to the point where you're at now without having to grind to a certain extent? Or do you,
Probably not. Like, early in my career, like when I started this, I was grinding, and I was grinding probably up until I knew it was time for me to go out on my own. And part of that was because I didn't want to grind anymore, and I didn't want to work under that model. And I was never going to stop grinding under the big corporate model, right?
Yeah.
And so part of the question too, which I ask my clients and I do the work myself, is what do we need? How much do I need to run my life? What is enough? And I joke to say, like, so that we live in a house, she's 100, she's amazing, but sometimes she needs things. And I joke, I'm like, I'll just work a little harder. I'll just go to work, because that is a luxury as a business owner. And in the type of work that we do, we sort of have that luxury of saying, like, I'm going to focus on this and bring in some more revenue for a period of time. That people who work that regular 9 to 5 don't, but it still isn't grinding. Like, it is not grinding. It means we're opening books to a wait list or to, other things. It is still entirely civilized. But no, I'm at the point in my life where I don't want that for my life. I don't want that for any of that anymore.
Yeah. I think it's one of like the wonderful luxuries. There's so many hard things in entrepreneurship, but one of the greatest luxuries is that you get to choose when and how hard you work. I love hearing this about you so much. You're like setting such a beautiful example for somebody I know who's listening, who's like, that is the picture. Cause like sometimes you need to hear it and see it from someone else to then know that it exists and it is possible
Yes.
and that you have something to aim for now. And so thank you for describing all of that. I have my favorite question of this whole season. It is to make me feel better about my health insurance premium. I am asking everybody,
Yeah.
what do you pay for your health insurance every month? And how does it influence your business decisions? Because when you don't work for somebody else like a corporation, you got to pay for it.
And, I was totally transparent when I submitted my application for this, and that I have the privilege of having a spouse who has a corporate job.
Yeah.
We joke, and it was very strategic of like, Tina's job is to keep us in health insurance. And it is not. Like, there is a lot of room for their professional satisfaction. Like, don't get me wrong, in our marriage, but it was a big part of the decision that we had together as a unit outside of the business when I was percolating on the business of we kind of need to make this happen. And so for giggles, I did go out onto the marketplace and say, okay, I am 52. My spouse is 5 years older than me. We live in Virginia. What would health insurance cost us? It probably in any sort of configuration cost us about $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Between premiums and deductibles. Right? Because there's the lower premiums on a monthly basis, but then there's the high deductible if something happens. There's the higher premiums with the lower. So I just mashed them all together.
Yeah.
So in Central Virginia, what would, two middle-aged women cost in between $20,000 and $30,000 a year? And that's not nothing. And I recognize and identify that privilege of us paying a fraction of that through an employer is a huge gift.
Listen, you know me, I am not lonely and the forever single girl, but the running joke with everybody is like, oh, there's somebody out there. And I'm like, do they have health insurance? Are they interested in providing health insurance?
Yeah. Now, are we at a point now, like coming up on our 4th anniversary of this company, that if that's what we had to do, we could figure out where to cover that cost? Yes. When I was first starting out, that number was terrifying.
Yeah, it is really scary. For Americans in business, it is probably one of the hardest golden coffin things to have to get over, because I have business friends from ages ago and they live in like Australia, New Zealand, and in Britain, and they have universal healthcare. A lot of people up in Canada too, worked with a bunch of them during COVID, and all of them look at us down here and they're always like, to my American friends, they're like, I don't know how you guys do it, because to them, it seems absolutely terrifying to have a basic need not be covered, that it's been privatized here. And yeah, that's a very real thing. But I feel like it's such a marker of like, when you know that your business pays for your life, you're like, maybe you do have a Tina in your life, bless Tina. And you're like, I've got it covered. You're not the only one this season, by the way. But if something were to happen or you want to change the circumstances, you're like, but we can do it.
Yes.
And that's such a powerful move.
Yes. And I have been, up to this point, been fortunate that the people on my team are either part-time work and have, or they've come with health insurance. They're not seeking me as their employer. We're getting ready to make another new hire at the second half of this year. And that may shift. Like at some point that may tip in terms of what my team structure looks like. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If as an employer, we need to start figuring that out. But it is such a burden to a lot of innovation in the small business space, the way our insurance is structured in this country.
It really is. I've discovered that I have a new personal goal that I want to hit. And I'm like, I want to be able to bring the people who work with me on full time so that we can have group health insurance. And I was like, but what a great goal. Like it just, oh my God, I don't know why that fuels me lately, but welcome to America, right? Well, what have you given up in order to build a business that fully supports your life? Or do you feel like you've given anything up?
I feel like I knew going into starting my business that it was going to be a year or two, maybe three of hyper focus and a lot of work. And so I knew that that meant like cutting back on potentially some things, right? Because our income was going to cut had the potential to be cut drastically.
Right.
It also was going to require a lot of focus and a lot of attention. And so that might have meant, or did mean in that early, year leading in and year 18 months in the first year of business of, saying no to things, spending more on coaches, spending more on setup costs, spending more, which meant there wasn't money to maybe take the big vacation or the time or even the emotional energy to do some of that stuff. But I don't feel like that's the case anymore. But I did feel like that there was this trade-off early on that was absolutely worth it.
When was the last time you genuinely felt the weight of knowing that this is all on you? Like, did you have a moment?
I have it often. I have it often. I work in a world that is highly touched by the state of the markets. Mm-hmm. Piece of my revenue comes if the markets are down 30%, that slice of the market of my revenue is down. And that is absolutely out of my control. And in fact, when those times occur, I work harder than when the markets are flying high. Right. So there is that like mismatch. But I also, as I'm getting ready to hire, as I am thinking about where we're headed, as I think about I was out earlier this summer or late spring for a medical thing for a couple of weeks. And my team steps in, but it is never just, I'm going to step away. It is weeks of prep. It is weeks of still knowing that at any point something could come up that they need to reach out to me for. They know what those things are. Right. But those things could still happen. So, I think there's always that thing in the back of my mind, like, this is all.
Until you said it, because like everyone right now is talking about the economy and because it's a little crunchy right now. It's a little weird. Yeah. But for you, like I'm realizing right now as we're talking, I'm like, wow, I think out of all the guests this season, it impacts you by far the most directly, hardest.
It can. I've been, like I said, I've been doing this long enough that I have weathered, the housing crisis. I have weathered other tech bubbles. I've weathered COVID. So when you see the way part of my pay works as a fee-only advisor is I get paid to give advice on people's investments. And so when you as an individual see that your value in your brokerage account is down 30%, that affects me and how the revenue comes into my business. Yeah. And I don't talk about that a lot. So it's sort of nebulous even, I think, in terms of how people think about how advisors like me get paid. But it does. And it is often a time of a lot of uncertainty, a lot of discomfort, a lot of questions, a lot of fear. And so it also means like we're working extra hard.
Well, let's swing the other direction. What's easier now that your business pays for your life?
My life feels easy. I talk a lot about like money as a mindfulness practice. And in our early careers, right, we spent time paying attention to our money because we needed to make sure that we could get, if we had W-2 jobs, that we could get the 2 weeks with enough money in our bank account to not bounce any. Right. And so that practice was like, okay, I have this much money till I get paid on Friday to go do whatever it is I need and want to do. And I feel like at this point in my career and in my life, that mindfulness practice is, am I spending my money in line with my values? Am I living the life that I have visioned for myself and for my spouse and my community and my family? And am I able to use the money that I make to make change in my community and do good things with the money that I make? So I feel like, yes, like it is. Yeah. I feel like it is easier in a lot of ways now that my business pays for my life, because the decisions I make about how I spend my money and what I do with it are different than they used to be.
Well, what's a business expense that nobody warned you about?
I think I knew, but I didn't understand. Technology is literally my biggest business expense. And it's easy to be like, oh, this little thing that doesn't cost a lot of money is going to make us shiny, right? And then you sit down with your books halfway through the year or at the end of the year, and you're like, I spent how much on software?
Yeah.
I spent how much on technology? And next to salary and next to people power, technology is my second biggest. And we're pretty lean. Like, we evaluate things, we're looking, but it is constantly moving. Nothing enrages me more when I have a renewal of a software and they're telling me all of these things to justify why they've increased their price that I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just want it to do this. I don't want it to take notes and do my scheduling. I just need you to do this one thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the things. I mean, I was prepared for the big tax bills. That still shocks Tina. Like, I may make the quarterly tax payment. So to like chime in for like what surprises my spouse about running a business, quarterly tax payments, I was prepared for that. But I don't think I realized, I understood technology was going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't think I realized that it was really going to be that big of a percent of like what it costs to run. And as I'm a fully virtual person, I have a virtual team. So of course it's going to cost me.
Yeah, those SaaS products and their monthly subscriptions, man. I remember way back in the day, oh goodness, that has to be over 10 years ago. And Adobe switched from, like, you used to like buy the CD and you'd have a license key. And they switched to an online subscription. And it pissed off the designer market. And they were, right on time for the shift in the marketplace. And
because
then cloud
we don't know any of it.
Yeah, you don't. And then cloud computing came in after that. And then because everything is just accessible through the cloud, you pay subscriptions now. But like those little costs, they add up, which is why like the systems person in me, and you know this because we used to talk about it all the time. I'm like, what is the inventory? What do you need? And because that kind of thing can really take from your bottom line so quickly. But also it's really satisfying when you're like, nah, like my business pays for my life and itself. Like if I want to experiment with something, I'll try it for a month. And, because you have to be able to, like, I work with people who aren't here. Half the members in my studio membership are not local. If we don't use tech, we can't function. I mean, if anything, with everyone working from home during COVID, if that didn't prove how much you need that infrastructure, I don't know what.
Yeah. And I think going back to, we don't own it. Like, I get some of my financial interest early life and financial knowledge, from my dad, who called me the other day to be like, okay, this version of Quicken that I have an ancient laptop for that I only run, and I've run 30 years of our household reports on. The laptop is really finally going to die, and the software there does. What do I do? And like, this man has owned this piece of software for a very long time and has reliably used it, and he paid for it once, and so. We don't own any of this. And I think that's the frustrating piece. And that is sort of the state of the world of so many things.
Yes.
And I even think, like, going back to our original conversation, like the literal only Alias is one of the only pieces of actual media that I own still in
the CDs.
I do.
I love
it. Because we don't own our books, we don't own our media, we don't own our music. We borrow it, we rent it, it's subscription, and that's, so I think that is one of those things that surprised me in terms of like what's not only the cost, but the sort of nebulousness of it.
If your business suddenly lost 50% of its revenue tomorrow, what would you do first?
I think we'd look at expenses. I think look at where we spend money. And, I think back to the previous conversation we had, it's a distinct possibility. We're at a point in the business where the business has a really solid reserve. So I can pay salaries for my team for probably a year if we needed to.
Yeah.
I don't know that would just automatically happen. I think the want for the last place to go would be to look at them. I would try and look at, what expenses, like going back to those expenses, like what expenses, where is there overlap that maybe we don't want to have.
Yeah.
And I think it would depend on why. Like if I think the first question would be, why did my revenue drop 50%? Is it something that's entirely like, is the market shifting and I'm behind? Is it market related and I just have to wait it out? I think I would have to look at why, and that would strategically help me figure out what to do. But we have reserves. So we've got plenty of cash on hand. We've got reserves to cover events like that. I think we look at cutting, seeing where there's overlap in the software, getting rid of some software, getting rid of some technology, letting it do the things, even though it might not be my first choice for X. I use it.
I think you just hit a huge nail on the head, because when times are good and you've got a lot of margin, you're like, oh, I'm more comfortable if I use this for this and then that for that. And it's like, but this has this and that. It's just that,
Right. And given my industry, I have to be really careful too, because I'm trying to protect clients' information. Yeah. So I can't just use any note taker tool, even though every tool has them now. Right. It's not HIPAA, but that's the thing that people understand the most. Like I have similar requirements that medical people have to when I'm protecting clients' personal information, when I'm using technology tools. And so I can't use just any note taker tool when it comes to client meetings, when it comes to those things. So that is part of why we end up buying a lot of disparate technology, is because this one does this and this one meets this requirement, where it could be cheaper and easier to merge things together. But I can't feel good about it because of their security practices.
Dang, lady, your world is complicated. Like out of everybody that I have interviewed for this season, and you're one of my final few interviews. And so I've talked to enough of our cohort, and you by far have your hands tied in so many more directions than the average small business owner. And I'm really hoping that for all of our lovely listeners who tune in with us this season, that they get inspired by hearing about people whose businesses pay for their life, so something to aim for, but also that they realize that, if they don't have the same constraints like you do, where like you have compliance laws that you have to follow. Sometimes you can think like, oh, it's so complicated in my like online coaching space. And I'm, we overcomplicate things, and it's like, no, boo, like actually you're pretty simple. Like you can make decisions in a way that someone like Cris can't, because, and to celebrate the ease of that, and to recognize like, oh, I've got something going for me. Like I can actually consolidate my tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think that many entrepreneurs misunderstand about becoming fully self-supporting through their business?
That it's hard. I mean, I think they understand that it's hard conceptually, but I think coming from the world that I come from, I see from the outside a lot of people starting businesses that don't have a fully worked up plan. And I think that's one of the things that, like, you might have a really amazing idea or a really amazing skill or a special thing that only you can do or provide, but really understanding that there is enough of a market that will pay what you need to be paid, and that there is a full enough case to run a life cycle, that it is a full business and not a side hustle or a hobby, and that we don't need to commodify our hobbies.
Oh, that is a lovely mic drop moment there. I see so many people and they're like, I'll turn it into a business. I don't know if it's a neurodivergence habit or if it's just like we see so many people commodifying something because they're like, well, I'm good at it. I should make money from it. And,
I think it's part capitalism. It could be part like, I don't love stuff. And so I gave up. I wanted to learn to knit. And so I started knitting, but then I gave up knitting because I didn't want the stuff. But so I think people are like, well, then I could sell this, or like, I've already given scarves to all of my friends, so then I'll start a scarf business because I enjoy making scarves. So I think there is some of that of like, I produce a thing with this hobby, and so I could sell it. I could make some money to pay for the hobby. And that's a great side hustle. That's a great little thing, but is it a baked enough idea and concept to fund your life?
I have this personal theory. I feel like when you hit this point, this threshold in business, like what we're talking about, your business pays for your life, that it is like, it is one of the biggest power points and maneuvers that you start making. And I tie it into dependency and codependency patterns because as a coach of many, many years, I've seen this happen over and over again.
Yeah.
And I am wondering, from your perspective, what are business programs, coaches, and communities not talking about enough that keeps people stuck in dependency patterns that might stop them from getting to that point where your business pays for your life?
I think it comes down to money. I think it comes down to I am a systems person, even though I kind of sit outside the structure of financial services. I am still a very much follow the rules rule follower. So I think where I see people run into trouble is handshakes, trust. I am a trust but verify, or better yet, trust and document. So I think people get stuck in these dependency patterns. And I was in this for a long time. It took me years to get out of the team I was with because I had these golden handcuffs, because I didn't think I could leave, because I didn't have the control, because I didn't have a legal document that spelled out, that I didn't know when I started this job that I even needed it in the first place. And so I think that sometimes we start these baby businesses, and I see it a lot, where we start baby businesses and we don't put legal agreements in place. We don't put, sort of any sort of structure. It's not that different than a prenup or a any other kind of legal document, that we figure out how, if we decide as either business partners or people, working with clients, if we don't want to do this anymore, how do we separate? How do we break out? How do we sort of go out on our own? And so I think that we're not talking about, some of that stuff we were talking about before of like, do we have enough of a business case and a business plan to turn this into a business that pays me enough money to run my life? And then under that, do we have legal documentation? Do we have the structures? Do we have the things that we need to get on our own 2 feet and support us if things get messy? I think that happens too when two people sometimes get together and they think they've got a great idea, and you and your BFF are going to start a thing together. And you do, and it's like the group project where somebody's doing all the work and somebody's not. And you're stuck in this relationship that isn't serving maybe either of you, or maybe it's serving one of you and not both of you, or whatever. But you don't have the trust, you don't in yourself, you don't have the legal documentation, you don't have that foundation to be like, I need to step away.
One of my biggest lessons that I have learned, and I'm sure you live and breathe this because of the financial industry, but me and my little Virgo North node on my astrological chart have had to learn this the hard way. And I put everything in writing now. Everything becomes a contract. And now that Google Workspace has made it so easy to send out a document for a signature, I ask for everything to be signed. It's in the podcast agreements that we had for recording this. It's with the talent contracts that I have that I'm managing in the studio now. It's everything. If I have a contractor who asks me to sign an agreement for them, I have one back in reverse for them because there's an NDA on my end for them. And everything goes into writing. I've had people who want to collaborate, and I'm like, all right, let's sit down and talk about what that looks like. So I'm going to make us a contract. And 99% of them don't move past that point, because as we sit down and we really talk about the details, and they realize, oh, you're going to hold me to this because I'm going to sign on this. And, and I'm like, what part are you fronting? Like, what are you paying for? What am I paying for? Like, what are we doing here? Because a trade is not a trade. Free is a price. Trading is a price. Like you gotta know.
The trade is the option. The trade has to have a dollar value attached to it of like, we are going to trade X, and it costs me this on this side, and it costs you on this side, and you're going to get 2 times and I'm going to get 1 time, and here's how it's going to work. And we need to talk about money more frequently. We need to talk about it up front. We need to set really clear expectations. And we need to document our butts off so that when we want to unwind, I always say when I talk to my clients about prenups, like when living together arrangements and all these things, we want to prepare to unwind something while we still really like each other. And I feel like that's true in business too, right? Like if we're going to decide, you and me, Mary, we're going to work on a project together, and while we're jazzed up and excited about it, let's let's talk about like how we're going to split revenue. Let's talk about what we're going to do if something gets hard. Let's going to talk about how we're going to unwind it. If you decide you don't want to do this anymore, or I don't, or if it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much of that keeps people stuck in small business pairings or in small businesses that just leaves them feeling like they don't have any other option.
Those dependency patterns, they can really get you in the end. They can kill your business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen before.
A lot of it just comes down to being afraid of talking about money, of being like, here's what for in all things, like whether I'm talking with you about like a collaboration or when I'm talking to a client about this is what it costs to work with me, like just getting over and building the trust in not blinking when you say this is what it costs and just understanding.
I love that you're saying this right now, because as a financial advisor, what would be your advice for somebody listening to this right now when they're listening and they're like, oh shit, I think I have some money shit. Like, what would you tell somebody who is listening to us and they're feeling uncomfortable just hearing us talk about this?
Sure.
Because, you know, it'll trigger you if you're like, oh, I really don't like having to hash that out with other people. Like, what would you tell them to do from a financial advisor perspective? Like,
I mean, I think there's two things. The thing that I talk to a lot of small businesses about and people even earlier in their careers about of like, we can't out-strategize under earning. And I know Rachel talks about entrepreneurial poverty. I know you talk about it. It's the whole reason we're doing this series, right? Is entrepreneurial poverty exists, especially for women, especially for people of color, especially for queer people. And we can't out-strategize and we can't out-hustle under earning. Like there is only so many ways we can make these small piles of dollars work. And so we need to find our voice in what we earn, being loud and proud about what it costs to work with us and provide that value, that provide every dollar of value. Like we're not hustling people for money here. But I think the other piece is understanding that while your business might be a sellable asset, it is completely illiquid until that sales event happens. And there's a lot of things we can do to build these sellable businesses. But in the meantime, you need the dollars, right? We need the reserves. We need all the same kind of things that we need in our personal lives. And so the business finances and the personal finances mirror each other so much. But your business is its own financial entity and it needs a reserve. It needs cash flow. It needs a savings account. It needs goal-based accounts the same way, you know, maybe you're saving for, you have a lot of equipment. Maybe you're saving for some shiny new thing that the studio needs on this side of Mary's business in the same way that you are saving for this amazing milestone birthday vacation. And so it's like they're parallel, but they're two separate silos. Yeah. And if we're under earning, we can't do either of those things.
Oh, preach. Oh my God. We need like a whole show just about that. Well, speaking of earning in any capacity, money comes in, money goes out. What's a bill that you are weirdly proud to pay?
I think there's two of them. I thought really long and hard about this question. I am really weirdly proud to pay my mortgage because we have landed in, and Tina and I both sort of look as queer people who we both joke that we were sort of late bloomers. Mm-hmm. Took us a while to figure out where we were going to land. We were transient in our careers for a really long time. And we have landed in a house that always felt in our 20s and 30s was beyond our wildest dreams. And like, we've landed. And so paying that mortgage sort of just feels really good. But I'm also really weirdly proud to make sure that part of our monthly bills include a lot of giving, charitable giving, direct giving in our community. And that is a line item in our budget. And so I'm super, proud to pay that too.
That is a boss move. I love that. I love that. All right. We are finishing every episode this season with a little Mad Libs game. And I want you to fill in the blank on a sentence with me. The sentence is, my business pays for my life. And that means fill in the blank.
My business pays for my life. And that means, right now, it means the world. Like it just gives me the flexibility and the freedom to just be who I want to be.
I am so glad that we got a chance to record. I'm sure this will be the last time I see you around on a microphone in my world. I'm going to encourage everybody to go connect with you at the links we have for you in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on an RSS feed, audio only. Please go and connect with you because you are truly amazing at what you do. I love the way you champion people who need someone that they can trust who's not just another like dude bro in finance.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of the School of Moxie podcast. This season was produced and edited by me, Mary Williams, through Sensible Woo and now Sasquatch Media Grounds out of Vancouver, Washington. If you're a business owner and you want help building your own media engine, maybe it's your podcast, your YouTube channel, your content, the whole visibility machine, come and subscribe to my emails at sensiblewoo.com/subscribe. I'll show you how it's done and I'll hook you up with the good stuff. See you on the inside.